Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you happen to be in. I don't know why we all get caught up in saying that, but it's cool. Today, we have a very special treat, at least for me. One of my favorite people in the XRP Army community, whatever it is anybody wants to call it, is Coach JV. I love his intention. I love everything that he's doing to try to empower other people to understand financial literacy. And without further, I love the academy that he's put together, and he's helping to teach other people what to do, because it's not how much you make, it's how much 5 years from now you still got. And I believe that the people that listen to this man are going to be immeasurably better off than if they had never run across him. But the key is listen to what the coach is cooking and apply it in your life. And so with no further ado, what I'd like to do now is it's an honor for me to be able to have a friendly conversation with Coach JV. And here he is.
Hey, Warriors, let's get your shit together. Let's go.
Thank you. Absolutely. well, Coach, again, I couldn't express any more passionately or with any more conviction that I believe and that I appreciate what you're doing. And so one of the things that I'd like to do is kind of have a little bit more of an idea maybe than some other people have been able to get into with you before.
Yeah.
How did Coach JV, and if my timeline's off, correct it.
Sure.
But 3 years ago, who were you and what were you up to? And now look at what we got now. I mean, that is an amazing transformational process, and one that I'm actually in awe of, because you're not only talking about it, but you've actually done it. And you and I both know how many people write books about what you did. You haven't written your book yet. I hope you do, but you just went out there and did it. Okay. So can you explain to me a little bit more about who you were then and what happened? And I mean, my God, look at you now.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, well, let's back up to 16 years ago. It's a pretty wild story. So I've lived multiple lives. And so what I've realized is I'm just a frequency being having a physical experience. And I'll dive into that and the reason why behind my belief system now, and why financial literacy and freedom, freeing your dome is very important to me. And I'm helping people through helping myself. So 16 years ago, I actually attempted suicide on December 18th, 2006, due to a massive opiate addiction. I'll spare you the whole story before that. I was living for the world and trying to impress other people, and didn't really understand what this ecosystem of what we call life that we're experiencing was all about. And so I was chasing this esoteric thing outside of myself, ended up with a massive opiate addiction, attempted suicide on December 18, 2006, woke up to a book called The Secret. Cliche, The Secret, Thoughts Become Things, beautiful, beautiful book that allowed me to start to understand that my thoughts have power. And I didn't know the journey I was heading on. And so I was, suffering from a drug addiction, had to go into my own recovery. I recovered myself, lost everything, barely could take care of my 3-year-old daughter, to learning that my thoughts are very, very powerful. And that's why I teach financial literacy. And I'll fast forward in just a moment to why I teach what I do, because I've become a manifestation machine. So from there, ended up getting a job at a bank, which was interesting due to the fact that they liked my energy, which was the first part that I started to learn about energy and vibration and frequency. So I went on this journey in the banking system. And as I went through the banking system, at the same time, God, omnipresence, Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, I believe in God and higher consciousness, started to awaken me to a new reality, which was higher consciousness. And through the higher consciousness, I started to get this sacral gut feeling that something wasn't right while I was in banking. It just didn't feel right what I was doing. I didn't know what didn't feel right. I didn't understand it at that time. I didn't have enough awareness or awakening, but I did know that something didn't feel right down in my gut. So as I was moving up the ranks, went through executive banking school, where you learn how to scale a bank from the ground up, deep level bank scaling. And so you have to go through 3 years of schooling. You have to scale the bank in a sim system. And as we're scaling these banks, I started to notice that we were switching to a thing called fintech. Halfway through our banking school, they said, we're switching to fintech. This was years ago before the talk of cryptocurrency, or the deep talks in regards to cryptocurrency. And so I started to feel this feeling, which I understand now, and I can explain it as we go through our conversation of why I'm doing in my mission. Something that didn't feel right to me. And I started to watch our behaviors and actions as a bank, and we weren't teaching people financial literacy. We were teaching people how to be trapped in a debt-based system, a slavery system. And I would see, poor single moms coming in. What I mean by not poor, I mean poor, like sympathy. Poor single moms coming in, barely being able to make their rent payments. The dad's not paying child support, and they're needing to get a payday loan to pay for diapers. So these people aren't out partying. They're trying to survive, and they weren't taught how money works, right? And if that young lady or young man coming into the bank was taught that you pay yourself first, very, very from a very small level, that you could completely change the ecosystem of your life. I also noticed that banks weren't really providing how do you become wealthy, right? We were showing people how to get in debt, get 80-month loans, get the American dream 30-month loan, lock you in debt, which most people don't even pay off their mortgage. So everybody is chasing this esoteric thing outside of themselves. And I started to see these people that would work 35 years in their company, retire with $1 million to get 5% interest at, $40,000, $50,000 in retirement. That's not retirement. That's not a retirement. So this feeling kept getting really deep inside of me. And now I've moved up to executive, vice president. I have this banking degree now. And I literally was like, I got to walk. This is not my purpose, And so Cinderella story, I went from drug addict to executive. I mean, the story could have stopped there, right? But I wasn't willing to compromise this feeling and this out of alignment for money. I just wasn't willing to do it. And so our bank was actually going through a massive banking scandal at the same time. It was a worldwide news scandal. And so it was really interesting to go through that and see how people responded to that, and how there was a very, very low level of moral ethics in regards to making a decision on making money or doing the right thing. And so one of the things that I always heard that pissed me off, to be honest with you, was when I would ask people questions. I ask a lot of questions. Why is it this way? Why? And they would say, it's always been that way. Well, the question I had for people, if it's always been that way and it's not right, why do we continue to do it? And the reason why, as an indoctrination system, as very young children, we tell our kids not to ask questions or question authority. Listen to authority. But what if the authority is doing it incorrectly? We teach our kids not to ask questions. And if they ask questions in the indoctrination system, which are a schooling system, they're rebels or put outside. They're outside the box, or they're disrupting class. I encourage my kids to ask questions nonstop. If authority says anything that makes them feel uncomfortable, to question them, not to be disrespectful, but to say, why are you doing this? Why are you teaching me this? I don't understand this. Help me understand how you live your life. How does your my daughter's in high school and the economics classes and stuff they're teaching them. So I ended up leaving corporate America, man. I walked out on this journey. I thought I was going to be a famous motivational speaker and book author, and I just freaking fell flat on my face, man. I started a podcast. I wrote a book called Roids to Riches, The Fall and Rise of a Spiritual Man, which is my drug addiction to this spiritual awakened guy. And I got the shit kicked out of me, man. So I lost everything for the first time. And then I built a system called 3T, which is an academy, right? And so as I'm going through this journey, at this point, I have no access to cryptocurrency. I didn't know anything about cryptocurrency. And then a gentleman named Jay Bills came walking. I had seen the 5 coins to 5 million. Now, remember, in banking at that time, we were told that cryptocurrency is a fraud. We were told not to touch it. You're a criminal if you tell your clients about cryptocurrency. You couldn't be in cryptocurrency. It was this evil, dark thing, which we knew they were flooding us out of it, so we couldn't become wealthy. And so it's weird. I saw the 5 coins to 5 million Tori, and that got my interest going, right? So now I've broken free from the system. And then somebody walked into my one of my academy and said, hey, have you heard of this XRP? And I'm like, no, I haven't heard of it. And they said, it's a phoenix rising from the ashes, this and so I look up XRP and I said, holy shit. This would literally solve the banking issue that we had in the SIM model than when I was in banking school. So I started diving into it and I was fully bought in right away. And so I dove into XRP, invested in XRP. I started to tell people about XRP, and I really understood the power of cryptocurrency. Number one, from my macro and microeconomic studies of 8 to 9 hours a day studying that and understanding the historical patterns of what we're going through, I was like, holy shit, we're actually moving to a new quantum financial system. And I was able to connect the dots backwards to when I was in banking school and when they said, we are moving to fintech. Fintech is financial technology. What we're doing is we're replacing people with talking ATMs, getting rid of branches and brick and mortar, and moving into this fintech technology world. So I did one YouTube video on it. I was doing a lot of fasting, meditation, consciousness, stuff like that. I did one XRP video, and then the whole thing, the rest is history. And so the reason why I believe people follow my message is because it's coming from a heart brain coherence. Like, my message is coming from the heart and love for people and human beings. I personally have freed myself financially, spiritually, and I have a lot of work to do as well. But what I want to do is to help people understand through my story is how they can do it themselves. So 3 years ago, I had lost everything, literally everything. Thank God I had my crypto portfolio. The C word had shut our business down. I was getting, lots of things were happening. I was getting divorced. So I ended up moving back with my parents at 42 years old. So how egotistical smashing is that, right? So I moved in with my parents. I have this crypto portfolio. That's how this whole kind of mixed up the journey a little bit, but I started to want to educate people. And so I made a commitment to my mom. I tell this story many times. I looked her in the eyes, here I am, 42, moved back in my parents' 1,000 square foot home. I felt it was the most responsible thing to do at that time because I had a game plan. I looked my mom in the eyes and I said, I promise you in a year and a half, our lives will be completely different. And I said, I'm going to take this time to understand the old, deep-rooted subconscious mind programming that's been ingrained into me as a young child. I'm going to reprogram my subconscious mind. I'm going to learn how the multimillionaires and the billionaires operate. I'm going to mimic them at a small level. And then I'm going to free myself in the next 3 years. And lo and behold, here we are 3 years later, owner of 9 equity in 9 companies, a nice crypto portfolio, have diversified outside of crypto as well into insurance products that the elites are using. And we've helped over 4,400 warriors worldwide free themselves. We just came out of our Freedom Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, where we had my whole wealth building team. And so who am I? So I'm a high energy frequency being that is just a reflection of the people I'm around. That's it. And I feel that what I'm seeing within my current reality is a reflection of the feeling and vibration that I've created inside. I have so many beautiful people like you around me. All my friends and family are all a reflection of me. And I work to teach people that financial literacy is extremely important, number one, but how you feel about yourself and the vibration you hold is the number one thing we should be focused on right now. Because as very young children, we've been indoctrinated into the system to not be creators. So I'll stop right there. That's who I am right now. It's an exciting journey that I've been on. I just love the fact that people are just enjoying this story, because I think why people enjoy it is because they see a reflection. They see themselves in me, and I want them to know that anything is possible. Number one, I have dyslexia. I have anything that, ex-drug addict, anything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong in my life, but I didn't blame the world. I said, hey, what can I do? So that's who I am, and I'm honored to be here, man.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. So to begin with, my sobriety date is 5/22/1984. Wow. And I am an AA guy, but I'm not an AA maximalist. So whatever way that people find to be able to get their, as one of the ways that you put it, get their shit together, I'm all for that. Fantastic. One of the things that I did find interesting in AA when I began to get into it was there was something that Bill W. wrote in the Big Book that seemed out of context at the time. And he said that you will be rocketed into the fourth dimension. Now, Coach, what was some drunk in 1936 in a book about not drinking, kind of, talking about being rocketed, and he also put it in there another time, catapulted into the fourth dimension.
Yes.
I mean, it seemingly in the beginning was way out of context.
Right.
But then when I went into it a little bit further, and what I found out is that the co-founders of AA, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, were following a guy named Emmett Fox around learning about spirituality. And Dr. Bob actually mandated, strongly encouraged that people read Sermon on the Mount before AA ever had their own big book.
Right.
So so my point being, there might just be a little bit more to what's going on with these 12 suggestions than meets the eye.
Yes.
And I'll just leave it.
That's powerful, because let's dive into that, man. The third dimension and fourth dimension. And this is like esoteric stuff, but people think it's not. It's how our lives are. I mean, so the third dimension is future, present, and past. That's the third dimension that you and I are sitting in right now, that the physical beings that are going to listen to this are experiencing. But there really is no future, present. There's only the present. There is no future or past, right? We're living an experience, and what we do is through our subconscious mind programming, this reality we're living is we're bringing in the future by worrying about it, right? And then we're bringing up the memories from the past and creating this uncomfortable moment within this present moment. So it's convoluting all the timelines. Fourth dimension is just being the observer of all of that. You're an energy frequency. That's I'm experiencing in my life the fourth dimension. Time doesn't exist anymore. I work 7 days a week. I don't know what Monday is. I don't know what Tuesday is. I have a freedom lifestyle. You know, I can be home with my son when I want to. So that's fourth dimension, when you're breaking the time barriers. And so what the world has done, what this indoctrination system done, is it's locked us into this time-based reality that makes us experience this third dimension at a very deep level. You're sitting there on Friday, excited for the weekend. By the time Sunday comes, you're already third dimension, thinking about Monday and worried about your just over broke job, right? And it's this third. So that I love that you brought that up, my gosh, because I've really been talking about this, because what we have to do, okay, take out crypto, take out XRP. We have to get out of our head and into our hearts, man. We have to. So what the world has done is it's taken us from here into our heads, and that's ego. That's left hemisphere of the brain. Okay, that's facts, figures, numbers, logic. I'm going to get rich, 589 XRP, all that stuff. When that happens, all you're going to have is new money. You're not going to change your problems. The problems still exist. Where you go is always where you are, right? The heart-brain coherence gets us into the 90% of the brain. So if you want to become truly, truly, truly wealthy, what I did was I got myself out of my ego into my heart and created unconditional love. Not conditions. Everything's conditions. If XRP goes to 589, I will feel better. No, you won't. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin or XRP goes to 589. You will only feel better for a temporary moment in time. It's very third dimension. And what will happen is that dopamine will wear off, and then you will find yourself once again. If you are depressed, you will be much more depressed having that much money. If you have anxiety, having $10 million is going to give you way more anxiety, because with that much money, you have a lot more responsibility, a lot more pressure. So as I always tell people, in the process of becoming a millionaire, what's more important is who are you becoming? That's really important. I love that you brought that up. And yeah, the fourth dimension is when you ascend time reality, and you do that through becoming a creator. The system has taught us not to create. It's taught us to memorize. We're in jobs that don't even align with who we are. We're worried about getting off to get home to watch a reality show, to get to the weekend to watch our favorite football team. Nothing wrong with that, but it's a system they created. Somebody who understands fourth dimension and third dimension realize that you can control human beings if you can keep them locked in this time-space reality. I know that's deep as information, but if people can comprehend what I'm saying. So when you're always angry, you're always pissed off, and you're in your head, you got to go into your heart and feel that you'll be wealthy. It already exists. It's a frequency. So I love that, man.
And Coach JV, there's also one of my favorite AA guys is a guy named Dr. Paul Oler. And he wrote one of the most famous stories in the big book called Dr. Alcoholic Addict. And he said, acceptance is the answer to all of my problems, right? Now, the very last letter that he ever wrote in his life before he passed away was that he said that what he had learned to do, and I've gotten a lot of mileage out of this.
Yeah.
He said that the mental position that he takes is one as an interested observer.
Powerful.
And so if I can step back from the emotional reaction of every single thing that happens and step back and learn how to ponder, pray. There are 4 P's. Pause, ponder, pray, proceed.
Wow.
If I can institute the 4 P's in my thinking process, I'm going to be a lot happier. Because I'm not just a reaction machine based on the first 4 years of my learning on the planet.
Yes. You know, I love that, man. So I always tell people that I'm coaching or tell people that every circumstance is neutral. Your emotions are not, right?
Correct.
So all of us can be in the same circumstance, and if there's 20 people in the room that see the exact same thing, they all have a different response. It's every circumstance is neutral. Your emotions are not. right? So the way I explain it is two people can be sitting at a light, right? And the person on the left, the person on the right is sitting there, and all of a sudden there's a tragic motorcycle accident right in front of both of them, right? The person gets to, I mean, just the most tragic thing you've ever seen. The person on the left is like, holy shit, life is short, calls their spouse, I love you so much, starts skydiving, living their best life because they see how precious life is. The person on the right literally freaks out and panics and builds anxiety within themselves, starts drinking to overcome it, gets divorced, their whole life spirals out of control. They saw the exact same thing and had a completely different experience because circumstances are neutral, your emotions are not.
And we choose them. And the way that I explain it to people is I'm a big Carolina basketball fan.
Mm-hmm.
I live in North Carolina my whole life, right? Well, in these parts, there's fighting words between the Tar Heels and the Dookie. I mean, it's one or the other, the Hatfields and McCoys, brother.
Yeah.
And so I can go into a room full of people and say, go Heels. And half the room freaks out and says, F you, right? The Dookie fans. But the Carolina fans are like, right on, brother. So again, I believe that everything you just said and would add that our reaction or response is our own choice.
100%.
We have a choice. And I've got to take full ownership of that choice if I'm going to begin to grow up and have some emotional maturity. And why is that important? Well, before we turned on the record button, I asked you, what do you think would happen if we gave 1,000 people $10 million today? Where would they be if they don't change them? Because Mo Money, this is a news flash for everybody, and I think Coach will agree with me, Mo Money ain't going to fix broke.
No.
You can be happy with no money, or you can be happy with a lot of money, but it all depends on what's going on, the communication that you're having with yourself. And if you don't get that right, Mo Money ain't going to fix it.
So let's dive into the deep-rooted subconscious mind programming, what I educate people on, because so people, and it's not like, I want to give people get out of jail free card right now. It's not your fault. I'm going to tell you that right now. But now when I tell you this, it's now your responsibility. I'm not going to say it's your fault. What I'm going to tell you, what I'm about to educate you on is now going to be your responsibility to, again, this is neutral. Your emotions are not. So what I'm about to tell you could completely change your life. So it's not your fault, but now it's your responsibility. So what you're dealing with, if you are not wealthy right now, I'm talking spiritually, mentally, physically, bank account, it's deep-rooted subconscious mind programming from generation after generation after generation. So many of us who are on this XRP journey, we are all coming from maybe not a massive amount of wealth. We're not Warren Buffett, or we're not part of that ecosystem, but we are getting there. So my biggest worry is that people are not working on their deep-rooted subconscious mind programming and building wealth programming, because Jim Rohn says you can give $1 million to every single person in the world. It will end up back in the 1%'s hands. The reason why is because the subconscious mind programming. So your decisions you make are not based on just conscious thinking. It's based on how you were trained as a young adult. So why did I keep going, and why am I so honest about it? I went broke 3 times. So the third time, and I made a ton of money, I went broke 3 times. So the third time, when I moved back with my parents, I'm like, something has to change. There's obviously something that I don't know, because I'm able to make money, but I keep losing it. So I was like, I get it. We were a middle-class family, but there was never talk of wealth. There was never talk of money. It was never talk of tons of growth or self-development, none of that stuff. So I was like, okay, I have deep-rooted, money doesn't grow on trees. Yes, it does. It's paper. Like, so it's just like this program. Like, think about it. And I would always hear, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I would always say I can see it, then I'll achieve it, right? So what I did is I identified, based on the reality that I grew up in, the subconscious mind programming that was present based on the physical lives that people in my lives were living. So I'm like, okay, so this is my programming. I need to look for a target, which is where I want to be. So I started looking at the billionaires, not just millionaires, but billionaires. And I started to watch their behaviors, how they walked, how they talked, how they act, how they invested, how they spoke, how they articulated. And I started mimicking that. And I started saying things like, I'm so happy and grateful for the money that comes to me in increasing quantities and multiple sources on a continuous basis. There's wealth programming playing my house all the time, every single day, 24 hours a day. And I basically reprogrammed my subconscious mind. And by doing that, it changed my frequency. And by changing my frequency, frequency, I attracted new people, and the new people allowed me to learn the pathway to create freedom, not just financially, spiritually, and mostly mentally and in the heart space. So my job on this earth is to be me and to allow people to feel the frequency. So maybe they could either disprove me or listen to what I'm saying and do their own research, right? So that's what I'm here to do is to either trigger somebody, be like, this dude, this long-haired hippie dude, what's he doing, right? Or to trigger them enough to go take action. That's all I'm trying to get people to do. But as you do that, you have to look at your family and say, okay, do I want what they have? And if there's not wealth in your family, there's a misprogramming on money. They've been indoctrinated since, the 1900s, man. Our schooling system, the very, very rich family, they created our education system. They created our monetary system. They created our healthcare system. In America, we treat symptoms, not the problem. In the schooling system, we teach kids how to memorize, not how to create. Right. And if you're a creative kid like me, dyslexia, my brain works different, you're like an outcast. Right. But if we created children that we allow them to stay in that creative consciousness like they were when they were young, before 8 years old, we would have we would live in such an abundant world if everybody was creating, right? There would be so many different cool businesses being created. People would be free. They don't want that. That's the point you brought up, is that's why it's siloed in the 1%. It's not some crazy mathematical formula. If we all awaken to this reality, they can't stop us. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. But this is nothing new under the sun. This has been happening since the biblical days, right? There's someone who controls the system through getting people out of their heart into their ego and getting them emotional, like you said, and dragging them back and forth, back and forth. And now we got TikTok, Instagram, we got Facebook, Twitter, and it's like squirrel, 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 squirrel. So it's 10 times worse to get yourself into that higher consciousness or heart space, because you're constantly being hit all the time. So, and that in the cryptocurrency space too, man, it's like we're heading into a brand new frontier, man. Yep. So it's a beautiful time to kind of build an even playing field in your own mind and build a new paradigm, right? And so the people struggle with is because I don't ever try to convince anybody around me to do anything. All I'm doing is speaking my truth. I don't go to people and be like, you need to buy this, you need to do this. I'm like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what my life looks like. If you choose to do something like that, follow me, listen to me, or ask me questions, right? So
yeah, that's one of the cool things about AA as well. And again, I'm not here to promote just talking about that, but what AA suggests that we do, the people that are in it, and looking to thoroughly follow the path, is to share your own experience, strength, and hope only. And that's it. Attract, don't promote. And that seems to work a whole lot better. And one of the things that I wanted to say as well is that I kind of look at it, and it sounds to me like, and if I'm wrong, then that's okay. I'm wrong a lot. But it sounds like that you've been listening to Dr. Dispenza a lot and what his work is.
All day, every day, man.
What a badass. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. Anybody watching this, man, do yourself a favor and start learning and listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
So anyway, I look at it like in the very beginning, at the caveman time, we had the brain the size of a pea, right?
Yep.
And it was a reptilian brain. The only function that it had basically was to survive and to procreate.
Yep.
So caveman was walking outside of the cave. He turned around and looked at her. And you know what she said to him?
What's that?
If you don't bring some food back, Buster, don't bother coming back.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. Simple.
So he turned back around, Coach, and he looked out, and all he could see was competition. His reptilian brain could not comprehend that he lived in an abundant universe. There was more food for that guy than he could possibly ever get, but he couldn't comprehend it with the reptilian brain. So then the evolution of the brain comes in the second with the second part of the brain, and we began to use that in our consciousness. That got us planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yes.
But we were still competing for resources. So 3% of the people have 90%, 97% of the goods.
Yep.
Now we've got this third part of the brain that's evolving, right? The frontal lobe, and it has more to do with creativity and the extent of our experience, not basic survival.
Yeah.
And so I believe what is happening is that more people are beginning to wake up to using and thinking through this third part of our brain. And we're going to move more away from competition because there's no reason for us to compete. And it only works for 3% of the people.
Yeah, that's
we're gonna grow and evolve in our consciousness where cooperation is the way, because it's in our DNA. I wanted to give one other example and then give you comment on it. Look at your hand. Our creator, and again, you can call it God, you can call it Buddha, you can call it supreme wisdom of the universe. It doesn't matter what you call it. Something created all of this. Call it whatever you want.
Yep.
But if we look at our hand, it is an example of a symphony of cellular cooperation. The cells in our hand are not competing with each other. They're cooperating with each other. And if they begin to compete with each other, Coach, you know what they call that? Cancer.
Oh, wow. Powerful.
If the cells in my hand start to compete, I'm going to end up with a hand that is functional about 3%.
Wow.
That's the upper limit of what the competitive idea of the world is going to deliver.
Yep.
We've proved it forever. So I have been on my own personal mission, like you've been on yours, to help people to understand that cooperation is the way. We live in an abundant universe. There's enough of everything.
Yes. Yes.
All we got to do is learn how to look, take care of ourselves, think correctly, and then help others.
Yes.
And if we can do that, we will transform this world. I don't know if you've ever read the A Course in Miracles, but it says when we have the holy instant, everything's going to transform right at that moment. When we have enough consciousness to that point, enough people with their consciousness tuned into that point, and then we flip the switch.
Yes. And cooperation through desperation, right? So unfortunately, what's going to happen, or fortunately for those who are awakened, is, it's biblical, whatever you want to call it, spiritual, the Great Awakening, is that it's going to get worse before it gets a lot better, because the 3% that you talk about understand they are losing control if people awaken to this higher level of consciousness. So that's why you're seeing Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. You're seeing the Ukraine-Russia narrative. You saw the C word narrative, the vaccine versus no vaccine, the mask versus no mask. What they do is they first get people within their communities to argue with each other. And then once people start to figure that out, they take it to a global level, which would be war, right? And unfortunately, they bring us to our knees, and then we come into cooperation because we start to awaken, right? And I think the battle that they are seeing and they know that we have access to is tools and resources like this, and we're using these for good, right? I can use this tool to watch pornography, or I can use it to look up things, the Bible. It's a tool. It's the user of the tool, right? So it's like, this tool is very powerful, but most people are using it for left hemisphere of the brain. Video game playing, excessive pornography, some people are using it for highest level consciousness. And so they know that we have access to the stuff that only they had access to before. Right. So when we can awaken enough people through these communities, and you said something very, very powerful. I don't remember how you stated it, but you talk about you just become. You don't need to preach to people. The key is you don't go out. You don't need to protest. You don't need to go out and speak your truth. You become your truth. So what happened for me is I was looking for everybody to preach my word, and I got nobody. When I attracted everybody.
Yeah, that's very well said. Yeah, and that's one of the things too that whether people are aware of it or not, we are energetic beings. I mean, so you got to tune that energy the right way, and it's happening whether you agree with it or understand it or not. I mean, that's how all of this stuff works.
Yep.
So, all right. So where do you tell everyone a little bit more about your academy and what you guys are up to in your academy? Because I know that was one of the things that I really wanted to be able to highlight.
Thank you.
If I could help more people become aware of what Coach JV is cooking, then I've succeeded in what I want to try to do.
Wow, that's an honor. Thank you for bringing that up. So we have academy. It's www.3 T as in Tom, warrioracademy.com. You can find on all my Instagram pages, Coach JB_. What the 3T Warrior Academy is, it's an ecosystem of people, just like you talked about, high vibrational frequency beings coming together it has 130 cryptocurrency courses. I have 27 team members that are located within that academy. It's a frequency community of helping people into this quantum system, helping them understand cryptocurrency, mining, passive income, but most importantly, take all of that wealth programming out. And we have a 120-day challenge, which I always say there's one warrior out of 100, and the one who goes through out of thousands of people, or out of 100 people, one goes fully through my 120-day challenge. The 120-day challenge is exercise, nutrition, subconscious mind programming, goal setting, vision board creation. So those who go through my 120-day challenge, along with learning the wealth programming, are the ones that will end up the new uncommon 1%, because they're working on the foundation of wealth, which is the heart brain coherence, right? And the overall body. So they're healthy mentally, physically, and that in turn will help you make better financial decisions and allow you to open up your mind to new acumen. So the academy is 4,400 warriors worldwide have gone through the academy. We also are, I'm a multifaceted business owner too. So I have multiple, and what I do is my community gets, I bring them into what I'm doing basically. So the cool thing about the 9 companies that I own, every single one of them came from people within my academy that built their own companies through the education that we have provided. So yeah, we're just an ecosystem, a tribe. I call us a tribe of high vibration beings. We have people from all walks of life. We accept everybody. We judge nobody. It's unconditional love. There's no conditions. We have people who are Catholic, Jehovah's Witness, people who are Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm a non-denominational Christian who loves the life of Jesus and God. We accept you as you are, and we just expect you to be loved when you come into our academy. So that's what it is. It's really freaking fun, man. We just had our first live or not our second, but our first big one in Arizona. And man, I mean, I'm still high from the weekend. It was like so much high frequency beings together. And we had my whole wealth building team there. So I give people access to my insurance team. We have our whole full crypto team, our passive income team, our business team, my precious metals team. And so I just share I literally like, here's what I do. If you want to, and ask questions, go meet with these people. So yeah, it's a huge tribe. It's worldwide, and just honored to run it, man.
And I'm glad that you got the chance to be able to share that with everybody. And I will have links to Coach JV, how you can find him and his academy, in the description of the video. And I would also, that the XRP Army community would be highly pissed off at me if I didn't ask where you feel like our XRP, or excuse me, Ripple versus the SEC case is going. Yes. So yeah, would you like to share with everybody how, your views on the latest happenings in our case?
Yeah, so I'll share my views. And also too, this week we'll be interviewing John Deaton on our channel as well, which I'm very excited about. So we'll get from a lawyer's perspective, right? So from my perspective, and an understanding of how human behavior works, if you really think about it. So I'll walk you from my December 20th, 2020, when I was locked up in quarantine. We have a physical gym facility. So the quarantine, I'll never forget this day the rest of my life. It was December 20th. I was quarantined in a hotel because I couldn't go to my academy because of C word. And so I get this text from one person early in the morning. Oh my God, why did you give me an XRP? And then all of a sudden, flood of texts because the SEC, Jay Clayton launches this SEC lawsuit, right? What we have to understand is, I'm going to take us from there all the way to here, right? So we have to understand is they saw this massive influx of this XRP community, it's like a snowball that was building, and they could feel these influencers coming, and we were coming, right? The XRP army was coming. And then all of a sudden, Jay Clayton throws out this SEC lawsuit 2 days before, or 2 days after, right? He leaves to go consult for a cryptocurrency fund. But a couple days before, I think it's One River or New River, whatever one he went to go consult for. Yeah, increased their position in Bitcoin and Ethereum by 600 million right before he threw out the SEC lawsuit, right? So all the players in the game are moving around. You got Bill Hinman from the SEC that went to consult for Andreessen Horowitz. We know he's part of this whole case. You have Jay Clayton who moved over. We moved Gary Gensler up into the SEC, who came from MIT. So my opinion, this is all by design to bring in regulation to the US. It was also to really halt the retail adoption, to freak out the retail, to get people to pause for a moment, to make Bitcoin look all funky, everything look funky, make it really confusing. They started putting it on the news, giving people that predictive programming, the XRP symbol, Ripple symbol. What I do know from a banking knowledge perspective, that Ripple XRP is a massive massive, please understand me, solve for the banking system. And I'm not saying XRP is going to be the only. There's going to be all kinds of cryptocurrencies and blockchains and software that work together to change the financial system.
Yep.
But XRP is designed to change the banking system, and the issue is liquidity. So where do I think this is going? I think there's going to be a settlement. I think they're going to settle when they're ready, when the SEC is ready to bring in the regulation and a new Howey test. I believe that's what it's all about. I'm excited to dive into John Deaton and get his lawyer's perspective. So I believe, I've always believed from day one by design to bring in regulation to America. XRP Ripple is kicking ass and many different countries out there. It's not going anywhere. People are like, oh, it's going to zero, and I don't know. People say they're going to buy it back. What I do know is I feel like I'm invested in one of the biggest life-changing opportunities in human history. I really, really believe that, because I operate from here, the sacral in my heart, and I feel that something is coming. I understand what this is going to do. I'm not worried about going to 589. I'm not even worried about it going to $10. I am holding long term because I think about my son who's in the other room, that I have freedom to be able to take care of him, my kids. That is their wealth in the generations to come, because I'm so damn tired of the poverty that's been created, and the 1% or the 3%, as you talk about, that control 97% of the wealth, when this is God's money. It's not even our money. We are leasing this land from God, right? So we're coming down here. It's not designed for the 3%. So I believe there's going to be a settlement. I think it's going to be in the favor of Ripple, and it's going to change the ecosystem. Now, one thing that I tell people to watch out for is this case and what it's going to do for regulation. Looking at the exchanges, understanding your cryptocurrency portfolio. A lot of cryptocurrencies, not to scare people, but a bunch are going to get wiped out. A lot of the non-fundamental cryptos, because people don't understand. We have a cryptocurrency fund, which is a mutual fund, one of my companies, and we met with SEC attorneys. We went through the process to get accredited and working to get non-accredited investors. It's expensive. So think about that for a small crypto company that has to get up with regulation. It's going to crush their ecosystem. And so that's the thing that I am worried about, is just people protecting their portfolio and really understanding what fundamentals look like. I study a lot of Warren Buffett style around investing. But so I think there's going to be a settlement. I truly think that. Don't take that as a word. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, all I know is I'm holding long term. So I am interviewing John Deaton this week, which will be exciting to get his perspective, because he's a professional, in that aspect. What I'm good at is I'm a microeconomic guy. I say I'm an expert in it. I'm also an expert in scaling businesses and understanding how CEOs operate and understand regulation. And I understand that there's a bigger, and being an ex-executive and understanding at the higher levels, there's things that we will never see until they come to fruition. These things don't just happen by chance. There's people tapping people's shoulders. Money, politics, regulation. Whoever controls the money, controls the politics, will come up with the regulation that benefits the wealthy. So that's my opinion.
That's beautiful. And I'm very much looking forward to you being able to talk to John Deaton. That's one of the things that we have made a big effort on in what my group and team do, is to try to get Mr. Deaton as many interviews and podcasts and Zoom meetings with politicians as humanly possible, because we all believe that the more John is talking out there to the people and his story is exposed, that benefits the entire community. Now, I had heard through a little birdie that you guys were going to be talking on May the 10th. Do you know, did that date change, Coach?
I believe so. Let me look at my calendar. I think so. My admin does all that. So
May.
Yeah, I just wake up in the morning and look at my schedule.
I got you.
I'm I can I think it is May 10th actually. Yeah. So, and just to let you guys know how I operate as a human being. I run 9 companies. My team cracks up. I'm literally a present human. I'm with you right now. I mean, so I operate. So that's what I set up my ecosystem, so I can be completely free of anything that makes me worry about the past or the future. So when I wake up, boom, my schedule's there.
Yep.
Everything is everything. So I built my team that way so I can be present with you.
Got it. I understand. And we put together something on our website, Coach, called the XRP Army News Community Calendar.
Awesome.
And we did that because people could have a place where they could go to see whatever cool events are coming up in the community.
That's amazing.
So we'll have your interview with John on. It's already on the community calendar for May the 10th. Yes. And we'll do everything on our end to be able to promote and help as many people know that that's coming up as possible.
Thank you.
Because again, we believe on our team that the more that we can bring the community together to message together,
Mhm.
the more eyeballs get on your interview with John Deaton, the better.
Yes.
And I can't honestly see how anybody that is in our community could possibly see that any differently.
Yeah, I want to say thank you really quickly. I don't know if you get this enough, but ever since I've met you, since this morning I've talked to you, it's always been about helping other people. It's never been I really want to say this to you and your community. Like, all I've heard from you is, how can we help? How can we support? How can we help? How can we say? I have chills, man. So there's not enough people like you in your community. So I want to say thank you, because it's always like, what can you do for me? Or what can you do for me? You're going to be rewarded greatly in your life, in your community too, and I hope your community feels that way as well. So I just want to say thank you. I don't know if you get thanked enough for doing that type of stuff. So I appreciate this, man.
Well, I don't get emotional much, but I deeply, deeply appreciate you saying that.
Thank you. It's huge, man. I've the whole time, even our pre-interview, it's just like, you just been, how can we help? How can we help? How can we help? And that's just, we need more people like you guys. We really do.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know our guys would all love to be able to are going to appreciate hearing that as well.
Awesome.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up because Coach has a schedule that is laid out for him, and if we run over it, I'm not going to be able to get his moment in time, which is what we're going to do as soon as we finish with this. Cool. He's graciously said that he would do that with me, and we have a goal, short-term goal, to get 100 moment in time stories made and published, and Coach is going to be number 90. So we're within reach. We want to be the XRP Army storyteller, and give you guys the opportunity to have stories that you can share with new people. And it's all free. We don't charge for anything, because again, we kind of figure the more we give, the more we're lining ourselves up to receive.
Yes.
So I'm just going to keep playing that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Beautiful.
So, Coach JV, anything final that you'd like to say before I put you on screen and you make your moment in time, and then we're done?
Yeah, I just really, hopefully people will listen to what I'm saying. Like, you're going to do very, very well with XRP or any other cryptocurrencies. What I just want people to understand is please listen to what I'm saying. Is we need to get out of the head and back into the heart, right? Unconditional love, right? Stop putting conditions on love. Now, what is unconditional love? That is for yourself. The higher you can raise your internal vibration, the more you can become, the more you can affect. It's not about going out there and telling people how to live their lives. It's about becoming. And once you become, you will attract, as you talked about, right? So what I want to share with people is we're going to go through some of the toughest economic times in our living human history, but it doesn't mean that you have to go through that. So our jobs, the XRP community and all these high vibrational beings that are watching us, to include you and your community, thank you, is that we need to be the shining example. There's two types of people in this world. There's the lighthouse and there's the iceberg. 99% of people are the iceberg waiting to sink people's ships. All of you listening to this are the lighthouse. Now, the lighthouse has to stand tall alone by itself many times. It has to be tended to 24 hours a day. But how rewarding is that, as this XRP Army community, news community is doing, is you are highly rewarded because you guide the ships back safely. So be the lighthouse. Do not be the iceberg, okay, for yourself as well. So I just want to say, from our family, our community, to the XRP Army news community, we love you guys very much. Warriors, get your shit together.